Daniel, I want to start by asking you, yesterday was June 23rd, and it's the National Remembrance Day in Canada. I wanted you to, first of all, tell me what happened yesterday in Canada.
Thanks for having me. It was the National Day for Remembrance of Victims of Terror, and it coincided June 23rd, as you know, with the Air India bombing, the worst terrorist attack in Canadian history. We lost 280 Canadians on a flight, 329 innocent civilians were murdered by Khalistani terrorists. So there was a memorial plan. There was a memorial at Queen's Park, the Ontario Legislature, which is in Toronto, where the family members, victims, and the communities were to come and show respect and have a memorial service for the victims. And there were MPs there, and it was well attended. But when it became public that it was going to happen at 12, yesterday the Khalistanis decided at 11:30 they wanted to have their own memorial to the victims, and it was an intimidation tactic.
Test of Khalistanis who came to harass, but the Jewish community came out in absolute force to show that we are united against terrorism, Khalistani terrorism, Hamas terrorism, Hezbollah terrorism.
They came in, and I got there early, and we saw them come and try and set up. So I went over to them, and there's a video of me sort of confronting them because they had T-shirts of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a man who praised the Air India bombing in Tawenda Parmar, the mastermind of all of this. They're pushing conspiracy theories, and I equate this to, if this is a group of neo-Nazis coming with T-shirts of Adolf Hitler and other SS members to a Holocaust memorial site and to pay respects to the victims of Holocaust and find out the real perpetrators, we wouldn't tolerate this for a second. So that's what happened. And the Khalistanis wanted to set up, and they wanted to do it on the memorial. And there was some negotiation. They tried to pretend they had a permit, even though the other side had a permit. But they kept trying to come closer and closer and closer. But we did get the police and explain the situation to them and force them to do their job. And then the Khalistanis were moved far away from the memorial, and they weren't able to attack or disrupt it from a much further distance. But that's what happened. And then the memorial went off, and it was very well attended. If you've seen the footage, there many different communities came. It wasn't just Hindus and Indians. There were many Jews there. There were Iranian former political prisoners. A couple of them were there, and many different communities. A lot of Canadians were out there to say, enough is enough with all this happening on our streets. We stand united with the victims of terrorism, against terrorism. So that was a nice silver lining of the day.
Daniel, why did you feel the necessity to be there and, sort of remember the Canadians whose lives were lost in this horrible terrorist attack? Why did you feel the need to be there?
It's my duty as a Canadian, as I see it. I think there's two things. It's one, to stand with the victims of terror, which is just the right thing to do, the people who lost their lives. But we are in a point in our society where it has become more than that, where we actually have to stand up and oppose the people that need to do it again. Because there were threats similar to 1984 from Panoon about don't fly Air India today, don't do it, and all these types of threats. And Hindus and the Khalistanis have been running amok, threatening people, making a mess of our streets. General chaos, and it's not just them. They're Hamas and Hezbollah supporters running around terrorizing everyone as well. And it's just that simple for me. It's important to be there, so I was there to show solidarity and send a message to, in this case, the Khalistanis, that if you want to come and attack the victims, you have to get through me and the people around me, the good people of Canada.
Yeah, but Daniel, what we saw was, it's a very in India we've observed 2 days night right now that's happened in on the 18th of June and then the 23rd of June. You see, on the 18th of June, the Canadian Parliament actually keeps a 2-minute silence for Nijjar, and then you have the Khalistanis go in front of the Indian consulate and protest there. I mean, I want to understand, because even now when you were talking, you said you had to call the policemen to tell them that these are not the guys who have the permit, therefore don't allow them to protest, or don't, make sure that they don't sort of mingle with us. That's what I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. It's that you have a person who is known to be an associate of Sikhs of Justice. There is photograph of him with, say, AK-47 and all of that. And you have a National Remembrance Day. And remember, I'm talking about all Canadians. I mean, you said 280 people, Canadians lost their lives, right? And there were about 80 plus children in it. So I'm trying to understand this 1 minute silence in the House of Commons in Canada on 18 June for Nijjar, and then the 23rd of June, the Remembrance Day.
The Canadian Parliament these days, this stuff is horrifying to me as a Canadian, and but it's not surprising under the Trudeau administration. This is the same Canadian Parliament, Justin Trudeau, who invited an actual Waffen SS Nazi to Parliament and praised him in front of the Ukrainian Prime Minister, completely fumbling, giving the greatest propaganda victory to the Russians in the entire war. We had a standing ovation for a literal Nazi, an SS Nazi, not a conscript, a Ukrainian foreign volunteer to that. So they couldn't take responsibility for that and kind of pretend it didn't happen and kind of got away with it because it's scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal with these people. Justin Trudeau is the man who said the reason why he wants to bring returning ISIS fighters, people who fought for the terrorist group ISIS, was to quote the Prime Minister, because they would be a powerful voice for de-radicalization. So are we really surprised when the man whose solution to radical Islamic terrorists is to let ISIS members de-radicalize them? Are we shocked that he would have a moment of silence for a man like Hardeep Singh Nijjar?
And then there was these protests outside the consulate, right, the Indian, on the 18th of June. Now, again, one is trying to understand that this was a guy, Parmar, who's known, from the courts. We know that the bomb was placed in Canada. Let's not forget the 2 people who died in Japan. And Canadians lost their lives. Now, to protest in front of Indian consulate, again, it doesn't make sense. Can you tell us what's happening there? I mean, why are they protesting against it?
It makes sense if you understand what Khalistan is. This is a proxy shenanigans group funded by Pakistan. So why are there the same couple dozen people showing up all the time? Why do they have really expensive signs? How do they have enough money to have a cage and a propaganda and all this type of stuff? This is foreign funding. It's an op. And why are they doing this to harm India? To harm India. Because why? Because it's a Pakistani terrorist separatist cell designed to undermine India. That's why it's undermining India.
But it's doing it using literally Canadian lives, and it's doing it on Canada's soil, and Canada has a National Remembrance Day. I'm just trying to sort of...
Because Canada's an easy target. Canada's a soft target. Pakistan is Pakistan, and Canada is Canada. 2 + 2 = 4. I don't like this. I'm not there, but you know what Khalistan is. Pakistan and Canada's a soft infiltration target. Our institutions are asleep at the wheel at best. At worst, actively coerced by and captured by these ideologies, and then the rest is incompetent. And it's an easy target. I mean, we can go back. I mean, again, this is a very soft on terrorism, soft on extremism, and it's a country where you're more likely to face hate crime laws speaking against a violent extremist group than a violent extremist threatening to kill people. We just had a man in Montreal literally not get charged with making a speech to people advocating for killing Jews in Canada. You can apparently advocate publicly for groups of people to murder Jews, but we're far more likely to be prosecuted for criticizing this under the guise of Islamophobia than you would be to do that. So that's the country, which is why it's happening in Canada, because it's a soft target, and we enable this. That's why it's happening.
And again, I'm bringing the Kanishka bombing up again is also because apparently now Sikhs for Justice have offered 5 million Canadian dollars to have their probe in which they say Indian conspiracy or Indian hand in the bombing, which has of course been discredited earlier too. But they want now the probe to start again, and then you have, the Canadian, the police saying that, RCMP MP saying that, well, it can still come up if somebody's conscience wakes up and they say, okay, fine, let me come forward and say it. And they've also called it ongoing. I mean, the investigation is not closed. Where are we on the investigation? Because as far as one knows and one has read, the only person who was charged was the bomb maker, right? And where are we on the kanishka, this whole investigation?
As far as as far as I'm concerned, the RCMP isn't doing anything productive on this. I mean, it's not public. I mean, if they're trying to right their wrongs and actually get to the bottom and charge more of the Khalistani terrorists who committed the bombing, and better late than never, I'd say, if we want to actually nab some of Parmar's terror network, great. But we do know who was behind it. We have enough evidence. The bomb maker was convicted. There was convincing evidence of his link to Parmar and an active conspiracy to blow up Air India Flight 182. This is all proven. We have this done in Canadian courts. And the only thing is, we do know there were many other people involved in this Khalistani network. We just haven't been able to find them. So the Khalistanis are trying to play this as, oh, might be an out for India. And listen, they might have got Khalistanis within the RCMP. It's been 4 decades of continuous infiltration. I wouldn't be surprised if the RCMP isn't really investigating, but someone up there somewhere changed the verbiage here or there. There's a political pressure from the Liberal Party. We know the RCMP and these Liberals have been linked at the hip since the Trudeau administration got in. Would it shock me that the same Trudeau administration that's linked with the RCMP, that's also linked with enough Khalistanis, would have the RCMP do something Khalistani sympathetic? Not at all. Not at all. And it would have shocked me in 2014 if you told me. But after 9 years of Justin Trudeau, no.
I need to understand when or if you ever think that Canada is going to wake up, because I know there are Canadian laws which allow people to protest and openly say things that may not necessarily translate into action, but in Canada's case, the action has happened in 1985. So I'm trying to understand, will there be a point when, or somebody, or with the law likely to change, or where they say this is the threshold, this much and not more? And also not attack another country, because we've had our diplomats has the trouble, the consulate has been attacked and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, okay, from a societal level, I do see things are changing right now. From a governmental level, no, I don't see anything changing until Justin Trudeau is voted out of office next year. So from a foreign policy standpoint, Canada is going to be consistently terrible for another year plus. And we are going to harass India unnecessarily and stupidly and incompetently. And then then the Prime Minister will go surfing somewhere. But the tide against this is starting to turn. More Canadians know what Khalistan is than ever before. They have pushed too far. They do look far too crazy. And the more they open their mouths and the more Canadians start to speak up, and there's also a lot of the immigration fraud stuff is coming to a full, and the Khalistanis are deeply involved in that, and the car theft and gang violence, criminal activity. These are becoming much, much bigger stories in Canada, and all roads kind of lead back to Khalistan on a lot of this. So I think culturally Canada will be, I think, in a different place on the Khalistan issue within the next year. And politically, we're going to stay full Justin Trudeau while there is Justin and Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh in charge of the country. But then after that, there should be a shift.
Right. Okay. Coming back to Nijjar's case, Panun Nikhil Gupta has been extradited, from Czechoslovakia, has gone to appear in front of the New York court, and he said, look, not guilty. And what is the update on Nijjar's case? Because they arrested 4 people, but then it seemed more like a gang war thing rather than Indian involvement, paying them money. I mean, can you give us an update on the case there?
I mean, one of the good or bad things about Canada is we tend to do our court proceedings very quietly and then at the end release everything. This isn't America where everyone's involved in every detail of the case and things are, the public has a right to know about high profile stuff. Canadian court cases, especially criminal, are very, hush hush until they're decided. So we're at a point where it's going to be before the courts. I'm not sure if they're going to expedite this. It wouldn't surprise me if there's some political pressure to expedite all of this to get a political ruling while Trudeau and Jagmeet are still in charge, so they can grandstand for something, maybe. But again, the evidence we have doesn't either confirm or deny either side of this, because the Indian side is, this guy. Our two most likely scenarios are a Khalistani gang war where they kill each other, which has happened in the country, or this was the Indian government, in this case of the gang war, putting their finger on the scale and inducing some assassins. Maybe we don't have proof of that. So again, all the evidence we have, shows that it was professional killers, either gangsters or hitmen, which is the two likely scenarios either. So, I mean, basically, all we have right now is evidence that it wasn't my grandmother's fault. Like, these are, professional killers, and of what type, maybe we'll find out if the Canadian security agencies could do a halfway competent investigation.
Right. So coming back to the final yesterday, what was the whole atmosphere like? Because there is a sizable population in Canada of Indian origin who are not with Khalistan. And they are the silent ones, but they are in majority, as opposed to the more visible and vocal pro-Khalistani people. So what was it like there yesterday at the Remembrance Day? Because we spoke to one of the, a family member of who lost all his family members in the plane. And he was going to Ireland for the memorial, And so what was it like there? I mean, there are families who are there. So what was it like there that day?
It was a moving memorial, and the families really wanted to just, pay respect to the lost. They didn't, I mean, quite understandably, they didn't want to deal with Khalistani lunatics running around trying to do a, propaganda nonsense on them. But the mood within the crowd, I think, was very united against Khalistan. I think everyone was very happy that different communities came. It was good that it wasn't just an Indian Canadian thing. Again, many Jews were there. Christians were there too. I mentioned two former political prisoners from Iran, Salman and Sia, who I know. They showed up. So the mood was, I think, very strong, especially at Queen's Park, was strong, united. And I think people saw, what they were facing, and I think people felt good to be on the right side and stand up to that and show strength and determination in the face of that. But the memorial itself, I think everyone during the memorial itself, it was all very calm, and we had made sure that they were away and it was able to start and have the memorial be done. And then afterwards, media and people gave their opinions, and it was more.
So when you said we made sure, who all were there? What was the composition of this we who was standing up to the Khalistanis? Because I do know that the Indian consulate also had a little memorial service, to especially after the 1 minute silence for Nijjar, to counter that too. So just take us through what happened there. I mean, who were the we?
So I'll admit, I started it when I saw them coming to set up, and I saw the families there. I went to sort of go and confront. There's a video of me cops, all quite publicly. I mean, I kind of told the Khalistanis what was what and what I was willing to tolerate and not willing to tolerate, and sort of set the line with the police. And then as more people got there, there many communities showed up, and it was, I think the organizers showed some fortitude, and the people who came to support. There were a lot of, again, activists from the Jewish community. The Jewish grassroots really came out, and they've seen how this works, and this isn't the first time radicals have tried to attack us on the streets of Canada. So we made sure to the police to show strength and determination that we're going to move them off. And then people brought signs. I'm sure that you might have seen the famous sign, like Canadian Jews Against Khalistani Terror, who brought signs and Canadian flags and sort of stood in opposition of them and sort of stared them down and sent the message to them that you're not allowed to just harass victims of terrorism unopposed anymore. Yeah. So I was proud of the communities. I think everyone who came there kind of saw what the Khalistanis were up to, didn't run away, embraced the challenge, and met them with courage. So, and I think that was good and calmed everything down and set a good line in the sand.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for talking to us, and we'll keep coming back to you for some more updates as and when.